If you guys and gals are interested in more serious discussions like this, you can subscribe for more because we're always talking about it, and I would appreciate if you'd like the video as well. You can leave a comment or watch another one of my videos because apparently that's the same as leaving a comment. Either way, I appreciate your support. Let's get into it. What's up, Samurai? We are back with some more Trove, and today we're going to be talking about what we talked about in our Luxian video the other day, which is flux duping or duplicating of items in general, aka cheating in an online video game, because that's what it is. Now, there's some of you that have been saying, well, someone gave me a random free Gonda, oh my god, this is so great. Well, this is why, because they're cheating. Is that item going to be able to be tracked? Are you going to end up getting banned? I don't know. I honestly don't think so, but I do want to kind of have a more serious discussion with you guys in today's video about the bigger ramifications that this can end up having, not only with the video game itself, but also with your enjoyment of the game, because there's a real serious problem when it comes to cheating in video games. Like, single player games, okay, whatever, but with online games especially, it can be really, really dirty. Now, I'm getting a little bit of ahead of myself because let's talk first and foremost about what are the devs doing about it. Typical of the Trove developers in regards to new updates, you know how we never hear anything? Well, even with this, we don't hear anything. No one knows what the heck the devs are doing to combat this. As far as I'm concerned, they're doing nothing, because if they wanted to actually do something about this, they would have, excuse me, they would have taken the servers offline as soon as it became an issue. But unfortunately, they haven't, and we're kind of seeing a bit of a problem with that. You know, like if I just open up the market right now and look at credit pouches, you know, they're starting to spike up in price as people have infinite flux, so they can buy up all the cheaper ones. And then Gonda, you can see there is also way too many pages of Gonda, which is not something that we're used to actually seeing in this game. Now, I'll talk about why all of that is, but I wanted to just kind of briefly mention the story that I heard from you guys as to what's actually happened. Why is this suddenly becoming a problem right now? So before we get into the, you know, recent events, I got to take you into the past and kind of talk to you about some issues that have been going on with Trove for a very, very long time. Now, I want to be clear in saying I'm not trying to call anyone out specifically with this video, and I want to kind of get the point hammered home that this is kind of a generalization based on my experiences with this game. So with that said, let's get started. Back in the day, I distinctly remember flux duping being a thing. It ended up happening multiple times on Trove. It's been a continual problem that the devs have been constantly fighting against with this video game. That's why, those of you that might remember, way back in the day, we had community chests. That had to get removed because people were duplicating flux and sending it to each other. And while people might think that it was just some innocent little thing about the flux duping, unfortunately, it has directly impacted the game's development for years. You wonder why so many items get added to this game and they're not tradable? That's why. Because flux duping has been a thing since the game's conception, near as I can tell. And unfortunately, back in the day when Tryon Worlds was in charge, Tryon Worlds, as we know, was one of the stupidest corporations ever. They actually didn't know what they were doing, and they went bankrupt because of it. They ended up giving us Trove, so that's beautiful. But unfortunately, the CEOs behind it, you know, the company men, they were the ones that ended up taking advantage of the system and making some harebrained decisions. And unfortunately, all of the smaller employees had to suffer for it. And so eventually, you know, what ended up happening with the flux duping is they were banning players, But you gotta remember, because the way that this game is designed, there is no anti-cheat engine, which means that the devs have to get directly involved, and they have a limited amount of manpower to actually deal with these issues in the first place. Anytime somebody gets banned, it's not because of like an automated system. It means that they themselves have to manually go into it. So just to get that point across, while flux duping was rampant back in the day, and they did end up putting out waves and waves of banning, unfortunately, when Trine Worlds was in charge, they came to a decision where there was a bunch of people that were at the end game that were flux duping. And more importantly, there was people that had spent a significant amount of money on this game that were also duping. And so what happened was there was a big pivotal decision. I remember being super pissed at this whole situation, because when they were presented with the opportunity to ban these end game players that duplicated a bunch of flux and whatever else, they didn't, because they ended up essentially spending a lot of money on the game. And as far as Trine is concerned, money is more important than the game's economy and the game's future, which, you know, you can see hindsight 2020. Trine Worlds had no foresight. That's why they went bankrupt. And it was the best thing that could have happened to Trove, because Game Ago, as much as everyone hates on them, has done a significant like improvement to this game. You know, we've had some of the best updates Trove has ever had in its history, with reworks to all of the classes, various new content drops, and even new classes and stuff like that. You can say, yeah, the whole last year was pretty lackluster, and recently the updates have been kind of bad. But they're still better than anything Trine Worlds put out. Like, let's be real. You know, as much as even I criticize a lot of the updates that are happening with Trove, I'm still going to end up being one of the first persons that can defend it openly and talk about, you know, the good that has happened. So, getting back on topic here, the worst thing that ended up happening was, because flux duping was such a big problem, it means that a lot of items no longer became tradable. Because why would they bother making items tradable when these flux dupers would just break the economy with these items anyways? And that's actually been a continued problem since Trine Worlds. Because if you guys don't know, like when I'm talking about people flux duping, you don't realize I'm talking about these people having billions, like literal infinite amounts of flux that they can just buy and sell anything on the market that they want. And what that means is, you know, similar to the government in real life, these are the players that were regulating the player market. And that's what the tax update was trying to fight against. Not realizing, like the devs didn't realize that the huge negative effect that the tax update would have on the general economy, because let's be real, the people that are duping and stuff like that, they're like the 10% of players in this game, but the devs seem to act like they're a much larger number. And now they are. Because what essentially happened, here's how the story goes from you guys. I'm not invested in any of the Trove drama. I don't know what the heck's going on with any of this stuff, so I could be wrong. But from what I heard from a couple of you guys, they banned an alpha player because it was one of the dupers. So good job Game Ago in having enough integrity to just be like, screw this guy. But unfortunately, it came with huge ramifications, because they didn't get everything prepared and ready for what this child, mentally speaking, this person is a 12-year-old, would end up doing. Because they basically had a tantrum because mommy took their bottle away and started crying on the forums and shared the method for duping stuff. Now, I know some of you might already be pausing the video like you did with my Luxian video and rushing over to the Trove forums to try and find, how do I dupe? Well, sorry, stupid. It's been removed from the forums, and good, because I have no respect for anybody that cheats in online video games in the first place. I'm gonna get into my personal thoughts and opinion towards that and how like I view playing video games and stuff like that. But I wanted to talk firstly about the general scope of this rather than putting my own 2 cents on it. So what do I think is going to end up actually happening this time round? Well, as we already saw, the in-game economy has been broken because of a handful of people for years. On PC anyways. Console, it hasn't been as much of a problem, but the duping is technically on console as well. But now that a wide range of players have been duping, let's say maybe at least 25%, that has bigger problems, bigger ramifications, because it means that the in-game economy may never recover. And unfortunately, that means that certain players that don't indulge, suddenly their what do you call it? Like the bridge for them to get to that end game, like for all of the grinding that these players are doing legitimately to grind all their flux and stuff like that, suddenly everything that they did just became like the bridge just became so much longer for them to actually obtain their goals because of these other cheaters. Because it means that unfortunately the in-game economy is taking a huge hit and nobody can keep up who is playing vanilla, especially if you're actually like free to play, because you know I'm pay to win in this game. Obviously, I buy credit pouches, I sell them. That's how I make all my flux. Everyone always asks, how do you make your flux? I literally just buy credit pouches and sell them when they get to a high price. That's it. And thankfully, you know, that's kept me going for a very long time, because as far as I'm concerned with this game, I'm playing the long game. So to get into my own personal experiences with video games and, you know, how can I keep playing this game as long as I have been? Because that's another big question that I get from a lot of people is like, why am I even still playing this game? Because it's my favorite game. Like, as much as there's a lot of things that I dislike about it, it does so many things right that just tickle my brain in such a way, you know, like I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's just the fact that it essentially has an infinite grind is something that I just enjoy. And then on top of it, the grind itself is pleasurable to me. Like the fact that I'm just, you know, I'm on cloud 9 doing all of these dungeons one after another and knowing that I'm slowly gathering more and more resources and slowly getting more and more of these gear boxes that can potentially give me the gear that I need. Now, if you end up adding cheating or duping into that equation, suddenly you can obtain your goals extremely fast. And I think that a lot of people take for granted, especially if somebody hasn't cheated before in video games. I think people really take for granted the negative side effects of it, because if you are just getting into Trove and suddenly you have the opportunity to start cheating, it means that even if you ended up enjoying this game initially, that enjoyment is going to dissipate almost immediately. I would be surprised to see anyone cheat and play for more than a week, because suddenly you can obtain all of your goals. And let's be real, like that's kind of all video games are, is dopamine hits of cascading over specific goals. Like I'm not going to get into game design philosophy or anything like that, but I'm just trying to say that especially in a game like this, the journey is more important than the end result, as is true with everything, you know, regardless of video games. That's kind of just life in general. But similar to life and similar to video games, people try to cheat in life as well. And unfortunately, they don't get their comeuppance all the time. Sometimes they do, but not often. And it is very unfortunate, because then blue collar workers like me, I mean, you know what I mean by blue collar. Obviously I play video games for a living, but I consider myself a blue collar YouTuber, because I don't read the algorithm. You know, it's too complicated for me. I don't like try to do the YouTube rat race or anything like that. I kind of just do what I feel like and try to just respond as best I can to things that I think you guys would be interested in. But at the same time, you know, I'm constantly just like, I'm a gamer. So I just play video games that I enjoy, regardless of the lack of views that it might end up obtaining. And, you know, not to go off on a tangent here, but to just say that technically speaking, that's actually really bad for my channel, but it's not good for my soul is the thing, you know, because I really like doing what I'm doing. And kind of, you know, all of this to say, that's how I approach Trove as well. And why it stayed so fresh for me for so long is because I'm still grinding towards my goals. You know, my goals are a lot further away, and I'm constantly pushing myself in terms of, okay, well, what's my next goal? Trying to get Crystal 5 on all, you know, a full set of Crystal 5 on my Shadowhunter. Well, what would be the goal after that? Maybe getting a Crystal 5 magic set, you know, versus a physical set. And then maybe getting a full set of Crystal 5 for a couple classes that I enjoy, you know. On top of that, you know, gems, whatever. Like, I'm just saying that there's, you know, potentially you can just keep creating reasons to play. You know what I mean? And so I would just say, I just want to suggest and say, be careful with the cheating going on in the game right now. If you can avoid it, do it. I think that a lot of players are going to get banned. I don't know if everyone that deserves it is going to get banned, because let's be real, there's been Flux bots in the game for a very long time that unfortunately there's so many of them that, you know, the devs just can't deal with it. And I've known people that have actually used those Flux bots to buy Flux, and I completely do not condone that. I do not support that in any way. You know, to say again, cheating is entirely selfish and self-centered, versus, for me, what's the most important with this video game and online games in general is the community. You know, maybe that's just how I approach things in general, and probably why YouTube is such a good fit for me, because I like the idea of community. You know, I like bringing you guys in, whether you're a new subscriber or not. You know, I offer the opportunity to actually like be friends and chill and like play video games together, rather than just being, you know, just doing it for me kind of thing. But this is getting too philosophical and weird. Most of all, I just wanted to say that this is very, very negatively affecting Trove. I wish the devs the best of luck with dealing with it, but frankly speaking, I think that as soon as it became a problem, they should have taken the servers offline. But maybe this is a much larger issue that is going to take them a lot longer to deal with. And that's probably why they didn't take the servers offline, because they would potentially have to take the servers offline for like a month or something. Like, who knows, right? But hopefully they end up dealing with it, and hopefully they end up banning everyone involved. I do want to say, just be careful. And if you're kind of like on the fence of thinking, well, if you can't beat him, join him, don't. Because long term, this will end up being dealt with. And long term, video games are about having fun. And cheating's not fun. You know, cheating's something little kids do. And I don't mean that insulting, in an insulting way, towards my younger audience members. I do mean it as a direct insult to those that are older and trying to cheat, you know, because that's like come on, you know. But anyways, now I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for indulging me and allowing me to speak my mind about all of this in this video. I didn't necessarily want to have this be as long as it was, but I did feel that this was a serious enough discussion that it warranted having its own video and having me share my opinions on things. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know how many Gondas you've duped. And regardless of all of this stuff, I hope you have a wonderful day. Sayonara and stay epic, everybody.